community. My name is Ella Ivy. I'm the founder and creator of Livzenastrology. And I was compelled to jump on here because we are having this full moon in Libra on April 2nd. Wait a minute, I don't have it exactly. Oh, it looks like April 1st. Okay, that's today. So yeah, the full moon is today. Again, this Mercury Pisces has got me all over the place, but that's kind of good though, right? I'm kind of pattern breaking and getting out of old constructs, and Pisces is helping dissolve all these old karmic contracts, not only with the others, but with myself, right? So this has been a very pivotal time to be in the dream state, to be in fantasy world, fantasizing about what you want your life to look like, because you know, with Pisces, Mercury, how we think, the planet of how we think is in Pisces, the dream, right? It's intuition, it's how we feel. So we're being given a new dream right now, but we have to release, what I was hearing is old karmic contracts, right? Karmic contracts with other people who you've had engaged with up until this now, that have served you, that have been a vibrational match to you for who you were at that time. But there's so many compounding energies right now. And I would say, right, what's coming through, because this is a channeled message, right? This is just coming through the collective that wants to be talked about, is this initiation point that we all went through back in February 20th, 2026, when the planet of structure, Saturn, and our spirituality and illusion, Neptune, came together both at 0 degrees in Aries. And 0 degrees is an initiation. It's on a cardinal. It's how astrologers describe it as is the initiation, like a womb of a new seed of what? Aries, that opened up. Right. And it opened up with those two planets that were conjoined, which is, again, Neptune, our spirituality, the planet of the visionary, of artistry, next to Saturn, our taskmaster, the mastery of where we've come to learn for the long haul. Think of like structure, right? We're bringing down these, I would say, Neptunian fantasies and visions and images, and we're here to ground it in through what? Aries, initiation, beginning, starting. Aries is very primordial. It doesn't think, it just acts. Think of like an animal when they go outside, right? They're not really thinking, they're not strategizing, you know, they're not calculating. They're pretty much living their lives, and they come across every experience in a very organic way. I've got 2 animals. I've got an elderly dog and a young kitten. And I sit, and part of my meditation practice is to just watch them, because animals are very much in their primordial life force energy, right? They don't overthink things. They just have an impulse. They act. And so this is very much what this Aries energy was initiating within all of us. So now here we are, fast forward in April 1st, right? And considered the Fool, right? The Fool of, and I go back to the history of April Fools, right? This is actually the new year, April Fools. It's not in January, it's in April. This is the beginning of the new zodiacal wheel, especially with all these planets in Aries, which is the beginning, right? The beginning of the spring equinox, which is, I'm here in the northern hemisphere of the United States. And so this is what it denotes, you know, astrologically. For those that practice Western astrology, we follow the seasons, not so much the constellations. That's what Vedic astrology does, right? They follow the star system, where we follow the planetary systems that denote the change of the seasons, right? That's what I have learned is the basic difference between Vedic astrology and Western astrology. So neither is right or wrong or good or bad. It's just the periphery you want to look at your reality from. Well, we know that, especially if you're a grower or a planter or a farmer, that there's certain seasons that you want to plant seeds, that you want to initiate growth of things that you want to grow, right? They call it the planting season. And so they follow the cycles of the moon, right? If anybody here has ever had a farmer's almanac, farmers' almanacs are really consistent. Why? Because they denote they've been following patterns of cycles, and they tell you when is a good time to plant, when is a good time to reap, to harvest, right? There's phases of our culture, and then this channel likes to also, as above so below, tie it into the phases of our consciousness, that there's planting season times, that there's harvesting season times, right? So it's also a correspondence with how these planetary bodies move and how they impact and how they force change, not only within the physical realm, right? Earth, when they're forcing the seed to grow, to pop up through the soil, to bloom and to bud and to create this whole life process. Well, that's also happening internally. So collectively, we all went through this basically the creation process, planted a new seed where within all of humanity, within our consciousness, within our primordial life force energy, how we take action. And so now we, again, fast forwarding here to April 1st, back from February 20th, when this planetary alignment, this major planetary alignment was conjunct Neptune and Saturn. And again, for those of you who are here, thank you so much for being here. My name is Ella, and I'm talking about the full moon energy that's happening in Libra. Libra is about the other. It's about our relationships. So let's just look a little bit at the symbols, because there was so much coming through these last couple of days. I actually, last night, had to take a very hot Epsom salt bath and use essential oils and had very low energy. We still have Mars right now in Pisces, so energy's hit or miss. We have spurts of energy, and then we've got to go in and go inward. And really, a lot of the work we're doing is internal. It's in the psyche. It's in the unconscious or subconscious realms. So you might find that you might need more rest. Even though we have all this Aries energy, go, 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 we still have the planet that rules Aries in Pisces water. So you think about how water and fire interact. It can be, you get a spark of energy and then the water douses Aries. You just got to honor, because what it's having you do is sit with your feelings, with your emotions, with yourself before you take action. And how I know this is because I was really called to look at and face over these last few days past relationships. Relationship dynamics were coming in, and I'm talking about relationship dynamics from years and years and years ago, right? Back when I was a kid. From when my foundation, this is also Jupiter in Cancer, my foundation was laid on how to relate to other people, how to relate to myself, how to be a part of this world. It was all founded based on learned experiences and what I was taught by mom and dad, right? By my family. This is very much fourth house matters. This is Cancer and Jupiter. So it's expanding our memories right now, because it is kind of aspecting right now. Mercury, it's almost exact. Thoughts of our family history, thoughts of how we were, how we grew up. And what I was called to face and sit with myself, I'll just be, transparent here. What I was dealing with was a deep sense of loneliness, deep. And I had forgotten truly how lonely I was as a child. Again, this is no blame game. This is just now that I can pull back and have an age gap where I can look at these things objectively. I can see where, I was left at my grandparents' house a lot. Mom and dad were not really active in my life. They were divorced when I was 4 years old. So I can remember, and my mom was in her own journey. So she left me at my grandparents quite a bit. And I can just remember feeling isolated and lonely and bored, right? As a child, I just wanted to be around my mom. I wanted to do things, right? And I didn't have a traditional childhood. So, and I hadn't thought about these things in years, right? I hadn't thought about growing up with my grandparents and the actions of my grandparents. Back then, I perceived my grandparents as kind of being boring. They just watched TV a lot and really didn't do much. And the neighborhood that I grew up in wasn't really safe, because it was sort of we grew up in a sort of a ghetto part of Texas, right? So I was faced, it's like over the last few days, I've been drawn to go back to that time and space, my foundation, right? My foundation of relationships, of how I grew up, of how I experienced my family during that time, and how that was the groundwork for now all my interpersonal relationships in the now, and how I react and exchange. Because I think of relationships and feel like relationships are like a feedback loop, right? They give you a reflection back to yourself on how you're engaging with yourself. in my opinion, because now we're starting to speak more in the language of frequency and vibration, since Gemini is ingressing into our planet Uranus, which is the higher mind, is getting ready to ingress into Gemini April 27th. So we can already start feeling that momentum, because right now we're getting ready to approach its anaretic degree, Uranus in Taurus. It's its final stages of being in Taurus. It's been in there for the last 7 years, going retrograde on and off. We had a taste of Uranus in Gemini last year and what that would look like. But then, of course, it went retrograde. So now it's getting ready to move forward again, direct April 27th. So it's really about the higher mind, about being able to look at things from a detached point of view, because Uranus, which is ruled by Aquarius, can tend to be detached. And so this is the time we've been really sitting with our emotions and facing our feelings. But with this energy, it's helping us sit and face these emotional bodies, but from a detached point of view, not getting so caught up in the story or caught up in the memory of who we once were when we were children, when we were, raised to be a certain way by our parents, by our grandparents, by our family structures. And so we're having to sit with that, the uncomfortable. Like, again, a few days ago, I had to sit with how deeply uncomfortable I was as a child and just feeling deep loneliness. And when I allowed myself to go back there and sit with that inner child who was just very much felt alone, I also had memories of where I would go outside in nature and play, because that's all I felt that was around me at that time. Very isolated, again, very detached parents. They divorced when I was 4. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just telling my story of my childhood. And some of us can relate, right? We have our own stories, our foundational, I would say, constructs of the original God, right? The God and goddess, mom and dad, the original creators, and they had their own story. So this is a time for all of us to start really tuning into, okay, because it's in Libra, this full moon, we have to look at our relationships. We have to, with a fine-tooth comb, or if you guys ever sifted for rocks, right? It's time to remove the sediment within our relationships. And because it's a full moons are about release. It's about to release those relationships that were founded based on who you were. But now, because we have gone through this metamorphosis as humanity, literally on a cellular level, on a vibrational level, we are changing frequencies. We are changing designs. Think of cymatics and mandalas, right? Our cells are changing these structures. And so maybe who you were aligned with at that time when you were a certain frequency or a certain vibration or a certain structure, because that's dissolving, Pisces, Mars. You're becoming something else. I think of like the caterpillar that had to go into the cocoon and dissolve itself, right? This is what the process, a lot of people talk about this metaphor, but it's so relevant because we're dissolving old consciousness, old constructs, literally in a physical form, like a caterpillar does. It disintegrates and it goes through its imaginal cells and it starts forming into this whole new being, this whole new entity. So when it finally does emerge, you don't even recognize the caterpillar, will never be recognized as ever having been the butterfly, because it was a completely different being. And astrologically, this is what is denoting for humanity, that we're becoming completely different beings, probably the next octave, the higher octave, right, from Mercury to Uranus, which is the higher octave mind. So we're starting to get a new inner infrastructure, a new inner architecture of the mind, how we think, how we perceive reality, how we perceive our relationships. And so now with this full moon illuminating in Libra, and if you're looking at the screen right now, or if you're listening on the podcast, what I'm looking at the chart is I've got the 0 degrees Aries on the ascendant, and I've got this exact full moon. So full moons, if you're looking astrologically, the sun is always going to be opposite the moon at the same degree point. And so the degree point, and for those that study numerology or look at sequences of numbers, I've always been seeing 1221, right? The inversion 1221. That's like one of my numerological numbers that I see on repetition quite a bit. And I found it fascinating that this full moon is going to be 12 minutes, 21 degrees. But then if you look at the opposites, it has the 21 first, 12 minutes, right? So there's that inversion. And if you think about how astrology operates, everything's got its opposing force, but it's the reflection energy. And so where Aries is about the self, you, your own inner identity, the I am presence, right? The horizon of this is the Eastern hemisphere. If you're looking at the sun that's being birthed on the horizon, right? If you look at the symbol of Aries, it's like almost like a line of energy coming out and the rays of the sun coming out Aries. And then the opposite is called the ascendant. The descendant, if you look at the symbol or the glyph here, it almost looks like the sun is setting, right? So it's the descending part now. And it's the other aspect, right? It's going from day to night, from self to other, that's what Libra represents, is about all our relationships, interpersonal relationships, work dynamics, romantic partnerships, family partnerships, anywhere you relate with another is going to be where Libra is. So what is this full moon illuminating? All our relationships, which are, and again, I'm tending to use more of a frequency language now because of this ingress of Uranus into Gemini. It's been a feedback system. So your relationships are a feedback to how you're relating and reacting to your environment and basically to yourself. Because this channel, if you follow it, we come from unity consciousness where all is self. We are living in this unified field. It's just the illusion of separation based on density. And again, I'm using this language and this frequency language because that's what wants to be emitted right now. Really, I guess that's that Aquarius detaching so much from the emotionality of it. Because sometimes we can get caught in the stories of what we're feeling about our relationships, and we're hung up in these loops, right? This is the infinity sign. And the infinity is not good or bad or right or wrong. It's where we infinitely looping, right? And are we infinitely looping for our benefit, or are we infinitely looping in the past? And because moon rules memory, we're being forced to look at the illuminated parts of our past related to relationships. So don't be surprised if there's some relationships that come up that are challenging you right now, because we do have the square aspect. Let's see, we do have where's the square that's pointing? Oh yeah, with Venus, because Venus is our love, right? So we tend to, how we express love, how we share love with others and ourselves. Well, Venus is coming up in Taurus, is saying we may not no longer, because it's squaring Pluto. So Pluto's power, right? If you're just looking at these glyphs and just want to understand the basic symbols of them, Pluto is power. And it's having a challenging energy aspect with Venus, how we love. In Taurus, our values. So based on the vibrational frequency possibly in the past that we were and our aligned values, now because we're going through this metamorphosis, right? The caterpillar's becoming the butterfly. We're changing our values. We're changing our energy forms, how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive others. We're literally becoming a whole different being. Right? So who we were in alignment with those relationships in the past now may be misaligned, but which is the challenge. But the opportunity is that means it's aligning you with more harmonious. This is Venus, right? Which is also a co-ruler of Libra. So Venus is a big hitter right now, and Venus is really talking to us. Are you in alignment with your relationships that have shared values, that have shared love? Right, of who you are now based on who you're becoming, not who you were when you were the caterpillar, but who you are now as you are the butterfly. And so this might be dissolving literally of relationships, for better or worse. And depending, this is why I love astrology, because it gives you at least the cognition and the understanding of what's going on. So when these challenging relationships come up, to be evaluated to see what needs to stay and what needs to go, then it's going to give you at least more grace and empowerment to know that this is happening for you and this is just part of the process. So if you've been challenged to let go of these old toxic relationships that no longer are a vibrational match to your butterfly self, possibly the relationships you formed when you were in your caterpillar phase, that was aligned, that was beautiful, that served you, that was functional. But because you are deeply transforming, we are deeply transforming as a collective, then relationship dynamics have to shift. It's just, to me, it's like a law. It's the law. It's the law of becoming. It's the law of divine intelligence. Go out in nature and watch it. This is why we follow the change of the seasons. We can see when seasons change. Look at your trees, right? There's times when it blooms, it's in full bloom. Like right now I'm in Kentucky. And I'm watching how most of the trees were barren, right? Because we're just coming off of the winter months. So there's no life growth, but I'm starting to see new life growth. It's coming back and it's vibrant colors. There's starting to be yellows and purples, right? So following the patterns and the systems of nature, because we are also nature and we are also part of divine intelligence. Again, there is no separation when you're looking from that fractal field of the quantum realms. Then as above, so below, when you see that the trees are blooming and coming back, that means there's a part of your essence that's also blooming and coming back. And it's being regridded and reauthored. And I would say too, because the frequencies are so generational, because we got Pluto involved, this is changing generational dynamics. I'm looking too at the country. I'm currently in the United States. Gosh, our relational dynamics with our own government is shifting. Our relationship to who we perceive in power is shifting, right? We're starting to see really how these dynamics have been very corrupt. And the people that we trusted, right? These familials or familiar energy or family energy, look at the base root, right? That we're starting to see that it wasn't the story that we've been told, that the story is changing about our origin point, even about how the United States was formed, how most countries were formed. Now we're getting past just the periphery of the United States and the world, and now we're going intergalactic, right? We're looking at how are we related not only to our own communities and cultures, but how are we related to other planetary energies, and what do really other planetary energies entail? Are there other beings from other planets that have already been living here, right? So we're having a new relationship dynamic even with our own galactic selves. Who are we in this bigger picture? We thought we were the apex, right? We were the only ones, very much Aries, right? And individuated, I'm the only one. And now we're starting to see, wait a minute, we might be in relationship with other things and beings and entities that we had no idea that was even there, right? So this is really sort of mind-blowing humanity right now. The moon is revealing that there might be new relationships, new intergalactic, new beings that want to present themselves. And again, this is because it's a match of a vibrational universe to you, and because you're now the butterfly, right? So now as the butterfly state, you can start engaging and interacting with these new energies and frequencies, probably in a way you never have been able to before. So this is the invitation. And I love to practice please understand the word ritual. Some people get triggered by it because we're still embedded into the religious culture. But ritual, all it is like, you have a ritual of brushing your teeth, right? You have a ritual of putting on deodorant. And these are rituals you do to prepare yourself for the day so that you can be presentable, right? You just feel better when you do these things. So during new moon and full moon phases, this is the invitation astrologers always offer, is to do some sort of ritual like remembrance, activation, right? So that you can energetically be more aligned with these currents of energies that are flowing in, that are happening to all of us. And just like with the Farmer's Almanac, it just gives you the timing of when to do these things. So the timing is now to really set the intention to end all your karmic contracts, known or unknown, in this lifetime or any other lifetime up into this now moment. Remember, language is important. Spell casting, this is very Mercury. Dreaming a new dream, allowing yourself to get into the spiritual realms of who you're becoming, and then bring that down to form into the physical, because they're very much Taurus. And Venus likes to be in Taurus. It's one of its co-ruling signs, right? The other one is Libra. So again, Venus is the major focus right now on what do you love now as a butterfly of who you are now. Who do you love now? Have your values shifted and changed? Do you value yourself more? Are you starting to realize that when you love yourself and give yourself the nurturance, love, compassion, respect, this is Jupiter in Cancer, then you have more to give to the other. But if you've been depleted, again, I'm looking at this dynamic, if we've been taught by our families to be the sacrificial lamb or the martyr, or to people please, to other people to be liked, to be safe, right? Then this is what's also shifting. these power dynamics within relationships, Pluto's involved, where there's been an out of balance of power, because Libra is all about balance. So this is also illuminating where you have been out of balance within your power, within dynamics, within all your relationships. So have you given other people too much power, right? Because you had low value, low self-worth. Aries, we still have Chiron, our wounds of the child that we're still facing right now, and it's conjunct Aries, where we've been pissed off, where we've repressed ourselves because we were told to repress ourselves, right? I think about the adage, I'm a Gen Xer, and I've heard this many times, children are to be seen, not heard, right? So that we've almost been muted. Our inner child has been muted, devalued, right? So this is, can you imagine the personality construct is constructed on a devalued sense of identity? And that's what we have to face, all of us. Not just a few of us who have Chiron and Aries, which I do, by the way, natally in the 5th house, but as a collective, we're all having to face this part of us that was debased or disowned or discarded because of our youth, because children or the youth were not valued, right? So we have to face this foundational aspect of how we claimed identity, the I am, because that's what Aries rules. And now our values are shifting. We're realizing, oh, we need to love ourselves more and respect ourselves more for who we are, not our expectations, not our family dynamics, not what we were taught to believe. And again, they only taught us what they learned, right? So we can't, this is transcending also the victim mentality, really taking ownership. But you have to be able to sit with your feelings, Mars, Pisces, feelings that are uncomfortable, feelings that make you feel depleted. And when you think about that thought, you just like diminish. I've had, again, childhood thoughts of where I forgot how deeply lonely I was as a kid. Deeply lonely, like just deep loneliness. But then I also remembered how I found connection was going out in nature. Because my mom was a big, she really couldn't be bothered at that time in her life. She's like, go outside and play and don't come back till it's evening time. So I would. I'm like, all right, I go outside and play. And then that's when I discovered the trees and plants and caterpillars and bugs. And I just loved being in nature. That's where I felt connected. So simultaneously, again, this memory is also, moon is memory, remembering that relationship I had with myself as a kid, where I felt deeply lonely, but at the same time, I also felt deeply connected to nature. And so there's this paradoxical energy of coming back into yourself, folding back your memories in a new way, in a new perspective, in who you are now as the adult form, because we also have Saturn, which is the elder in Aries. So this is giving a new periphery of our childhood from a more adult and mature perspective. So it's requiring us to step up, to feel the feelings, and to reevaluate all our relationships based on how they were founded, based on childhood, how we learned to be, right? And so this is a pivotal time to be very aware, and again, invite in ritual, because it's an air releasing. We've got Mercury, which is an air planet. So really maybe writing down, because this is part of Gemini and Mercury, writing down old past lovers, relationships, anybody you had that you feel, and you may not know this, and maybe you just sit in meditation and ask your higher self or your soul self or your divine intelligence self that's connected directly to source, right? We're not separate, but you're just purposely connecting to that aspect of yourself, that divine intelligence that says, hey, who do I need to let go? What karmic contracts and relationships have I been a part of up until this now that is ready to be let go, that's ready to be alchemized, released, changed, and eliminated? This is also very Pluto, right? Elimination. So that I can make room for the new relationship dynamics that I'm meant to be a part of, right? New community groups. This is also very Aquarius. So what new communities now am I drawing to myself? Magnetism, because this is also Venus. Venus is the magnetic aspect of us. So the electric part of us would be the masculine, and then the feminine would be the magnetic, where we pull energy in. And so you're pulling in new relationship dynamics based on who you are in your values now. If the more you can love yourself, the more you're going to find more loving communities, because who you surround yourself with is a reflection of you. It's a feedback loop of what you're allowing into your system. So this is a time to really evaluate all your relationships and say, man, who am I in this relationship pattern? Do I like who I am when I'm in this partnership, whether it's job? And again, if you want a chart session, we can always look at, because this is individuated, you're going to have to look at your own longitude, latitude. This is the time of day you were born, where you were born, because the house system is going to shift for everybody. So where are these relationship dynamics showing up for you that need to be converted or transformed or alchemized based on who you are now with your value system and how you love now and not the past? But you got to be illuminated. You got to see it. You got to be willing to, take the rose-colored glasses off, I'm seeing, because sometimes we look at our relationships. I think of like Jerry Maguire. I love him for the man that he almost is, right? And sometimes we do that. Sometimes we look at people and we see the best in them and not really looking at what they're showing you, right? Because we get this Pollyanna perspective, or at least I did anyway. And that was such a relevant, one-liner for me. It's like, I love him for the man that he almost is. And now we're just being asked, do you love them for the person who they're showing themselves to be now? Not for their potential, right? You got to be open. You got to have your eyes open as to what they're showing you now. Because the now is the only point of power that we have. It's our personal, they call it 0 point. You got to be in the now to be in the know. So it's to really know, who are you in relationship with? Right? And don't discard those perhaps maybe narcissistic tendencies or those selfish tendencies found in the other, that maybe you just kind of put under the rug, or you made excuses for, whatever the situation might be. Maybe you're at a workplace environment that's very toxic, but you kind of just got used to it because you're making good money and you're like, well, it's just kind of the way it is. Well, again, money, because Venus is there, it's like, hey, money and everything. Happiness, we have a limited time. This is Saturn. Time is your most valuable resource. It is limited in this realm. Even though we are fine, infinite beings, think of the word infant, right? Aries, the infant of the zodiac. We are infinite beings, but we are in a finite realm on Earth, Taurus. And time is the regulator. Time is the construct. Time is the dimension that we all play by. So who are you spending your time with? How are you spending your time and within your relationships? And now, because we're starting to realize time is the most valuable resource, it's not so much money. Money is just a reflection of your current, of your energy form, of your energy system. And if your energy system's depleted, or it's being succubused by some vampiric energies based on who you were in the past, because that's what you allowed, that's what you were taught to allow into your system, right? So inherited behaviors, inherited belief systems. This is what's coming up to be reevaluated and to be shown a light on, so that you have the opportunity by choice, free will, to choose, okay, I know I've been in this toxic work environment. I didn't realize how much it was depleting me. I didn't realize how much energy, life force I was losing by allowing myself to be in this contract, right? Consenting to be in this environment, right? Because of money, because we were in survival mode. And so this is where we're all sort of expanding out of Jupiter, because we're finding new familial ties to people that actually we feel good around. So to me, my own inner child, mine, is just, how I'm evaluating this energy for myself, right? I could talk about it, but how am I practicing it? Well, like a child's mind, Aries, I'm saying, who do I feel good around? Who do I feel energized when we have an energy exchange or we hang out together? Do I feel energized and fun? And do I feel vitality and laughter? Or do I feel depleted? Or do I feel, because some people, they're always looking to you to solve their problems or to be that listening ear, or, again, that succubus energy that they don't know how to harness source energy themselves. So they source it through you, right? And so just really pay attention to all your relationship patterns over the next few days, because it's going to be really illuminating who bleeds you dry and who pours into you. And it's also going to be illuminated, who do you bleed dry and who do you pour into? Right? So it's both, right? Because sometimes, unfortunately, if we're facing the honest truth, where have we been the vampires in relationship? Because we didn't know how to self-source, because we didn't know how to connect to our own sense of worth and love and divine intelligence and divine love. This Indra's net that we're all connected to, which is love-based. It's nothing but That's the main frequency. It's harmony and balance and love. That's how divine intelligence really operates. But if we've been in dissonance because we just didn't know any better, because we saw our parents in dissonance and we just thought that was normal, we're starting to realize in our nervous systems is also Taurus in the body. How do you feel when you're around certain people? Get in your body with it. If the mind can go back and forth and say, oh, well, and we can make excuses for other people, but you still feel like shit in your body when you're around that person. So this is where the body's really talking right now. And Venus is talking, especially since she's co-ruling Libra and Taurus. Say, hey, love yourself enough to be around people who love you. Don't sacrifice yourself. This is very much Pisces. Don't sacrifice yourself or your sense of identity or self-worth because you want a feeling of belonging, right? Because you still need to be accepted by the other. So this is a very deep, potent, again, shadow work, soul work. I call it, I'm seeing it like a nodal point, right? It's like, I'm thinking like a 90 degrees. When energy moves, you got to shift from, okay, so I got to use metaphor here because I'm telling my own story. Think if like you're sitting in a chair too long at 90 degrees and your legs start falling asleep. You got to move, you got to shift, you got to move things around, right? That's what squares are. Squares are considered challenging energies in astrology. So if you've been sitting in this chair too long and you're depleted and your feet are numb and your legs are numb, you got to move, you got to shift, you got to change. So this is making the hard choices right now. If that, say, romantic partnership has been depleting you, if you are not your best self when you're in this partnership, are you your best self when you're in this group organization, 11th house, 10th house? Do you love your career? Are the people around you the beings you want to be around with that make you the best version of self and that who you can influence to be their best version selves? If these answers are not satisfying anymore, and again, it's a vibrational thing, it's going to fall apart anyway. So you might as well be proactive on it. Be very honest with yourself, Aries. Aries is very direct. It likes to be honest. And because Mars is ruling planet, it's in Pisces, where we've been delusional in our thinking, where maybe we have put people on pedestals, maybe where we have outsourced our power to another because, again, we didn't have a sense of self-worth. We were taught to be martyrs. I can speak being a feminine in this realm, self-sacrificing, right? Give to the people around you first and then feed yourself. And that's been such an inversion. That's why so many women are depleted. There's so many high expectations on who we should be, how we should be. We need to be beautiful. We need to be sexy. We need to be independent. We need to be giving to families. And even for men too, they have their own set of dynamics and expectations that they have fallen into based on what family expects from us. And all that's falling away, right? So what are we left with? We're left with Venus. How do you want to feel every day? How do you want to feel with Libra in your relationships every day? Are you your most loving self? Do you feel safe enough to be your most vulnerable, loving self within certain relationships? Because I know for me, where I've tried to be vulnerable within certain relationships, I didn't feel safe because that person would use whatever I said in vulnerability later on down the road and use it against me as a tool to attack me, right? If we were ever fighting or whatever. And I think that's just part of the human condition. I think that's part of maturity. I think that's part of, again, learned behavior from how we learn to be with, seeing the power dynamics within our own family, mom and dad, grandparents, whatnot. So yeah, this is a very potent time to focus on your relationships, to your karmic contracts, perhaps soul level beings that you said, hey, let's contract before you came into this realm of existence on this plane, right? In this incarnation, said, hey, let's have these experiences with another so that we can learn, so we can grow. And now that you've learned and grown from that experience, now it's like an exoskeleton. Again, like that caterpillar, it's transformed. It's now the butterfly. So it's no longer aligned with those past soul karmic contracts. And again, even with our own government, even with our own cultures, right? This is generational stuff. This is big picture thinking that we're looking at because Pluto here is active. And it's telling a story with all this Aries energy right now with Neptune and Mars. And so we have to dream a new dream, have new structures within ourselves, value ourselves more, love ourselves more, value how you want to feel in the body, and start listening to your body. again, go through this, I call it the filtration system. Really pay attention to when you're around other people, how they make you feel. How does your body feel? Because your mind may be like, oh no, I'm fine. But then you realize, oh shit, I'm depleted after this experience. Listen to your body. And then pay attention to when your body feels active, right? It's like, oh, I feel really good when I'm around this person, right? So your body knows. This is the embodied state. The body houses our soul, and our spirit is connected to source. It's how I've seen it, to be able to differentiate. When I've asked the question, well, what's the difference between spirit and soul? Well, soul is in the body. Spirit is the divine essence that's all around us, but our soul is connected through our organs. Right? There's no separation there. It's how we house, we call it the housing system here in astrology. It's how we house the energy within our bodies too. So there's definitely a correspondence here to be looking at. I pulled some cards too, because I do what's called the layering effect here in astrology. I like to use divination cards. Right now I've been really working with the Shaman's Dream Oracle deck. But I went ahead and pulled 3 cards for anybody that's here, that's listening or watching, maybe some extra points of focus to look at during this full moon release time and your relationship dynamics. And what came through, the first card was the number 3. It was called Benefactor, Grace and Generosity. So we do have right now Venus in Taurus, which is I would say one of the most abundant configurations, because Venus is love and money, and Taurus is the earth. It's our sensuality, it's food sources, it's our body, right? It's all of our senses. And so right now our senses are being heightened to be focused on what we love. What do you really love? Who's a benefactor to you? Who benefits you? And who are you a benefactor to? Who looks at you and says, wow, this relationship, this person really, uplifts me. They're saying that about you. So they want more of your time and energy because they feel good in your energy, right? So this is a very beneficial energy and a benefactor energy to attract in those people that are really for your most abundant, loving, balanced, harmonious expression, right? It's a beneficial time to be focused on that. But what you got to do, second card that came up was deep diver, diving into a task. So making a commitment. This is also relationships, committing to yourself, Aries, full force, make a decision, because that's one of the, I would say, disagreeable aspect of Libras. They have a hard time choosing things. The balance, right, of the scales. So like, it could be this or that, and they can see the benefits and the detriments to both, right? So sometimes they get lost in that seesaw action. So what this is saying is make a choice, make a choice and stick to it. And just know that that's the road you're on. You could either only, like, I'm thinking of the Robert Woods forest, 2 roads diverge in a narrow wood, and I took path less traveled, right? You still have to make a choice. You still have to choose a path. So which path are you choosing right now? And you want to make the choices based on who you are now and not the past. So this might make you need to face your past dynamics within relationships so that you can make a more informed decision moving forward, or a choice moving forward on who you want to be around, who are you becoming, and what kind of relationships do you want, right? So this is the choice point. And then the third card that came up was number 57. That number was number 10, by the way. So I look at numerology. So the first card we said was 3. Deep diver is 10, so I break it down to a single digit. So I add the 1 and the 0 together, which goes back to a 1, which is new beginnings. And then the third card that came through was unmarked trail, revelation, and that's number 57, right? So that's a 12, I believe, right? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, so that goes back to a 3. So that's how I do the numerology on that. So unmarked trail, revelation. So again, we're in a precipice of being in such unknown waters. First of all, within our psyche, within our consciousness, but then we might be really invited in to explore new types of relationships that we never thought we would be in, right? And I'm not just talking sexual relationships, I'm talking interpersonal, right? You might be taking that job that you never thought you would have ever worked for that company or in that career choice. It might take you by surprise. Again, this is what's also influencing this energy is that Aquarium, because again, we're at the last legs of Uranus being in Taurus, which is the body, and it's getting ready to ingress into Gemini, the mind. So how we think, again, it's a new architecture, it's a new scaffolding of thoughts, of what we're attracted to, of what we're focused on, of how we're thinking even. We're starting to think on more higher levels. So you might really be attracted to now the movers and shakers, the leaders, the people who are really here to invoke and change, right? Different types of communities, different, if you've been stationary and you've been wanting to travel and say, this is the big year, for RV, for van life, for movement, right? Because Gemini's every day and Uranus is change. So you might be changing, even your location every day, who you're drawn to. So just really be open during this time after you've allowed yourself to see all the dysfunctional relationships that you're ready to part ways with, you're ready to alchemize within yourself. Now, because the universe doesn't like a vacuum, now are who you are attracting in, what kind of relationships, what kind of experiences are you drawing in after you've done this sort of excavation, right? This illumination release. Now you're making more space for the new, for the unexpected, for the unmarked trail. So this is the transmission that wanted to come through. Again, if you want to check out any kind of my offerings on the link in my bio, I've got an ebook if you want to support the channel. I've got several free. The ebook is free, but what I'm working on right now, it's in a beta phase. It's called AstroLingo. It's an astrology app for those that are wanting to learn astrology, that want to learn how to read these symbols and what do they mean and what is the numerology. And it's a system, right? It's a process of how to understand yourself, how to better get a better hold of your personality, of your dynamics, hopes, dreams, wishes, your wants, desires. It could all be seen in the birth chart. But you gotta have the foundation. So the AstroLingo app is a foundational app. It's very easy to use. It's learning the symbols. It's giving the basic definitions for Western astrology. So you can support the channel that way. And then again, check out the bio because I do have free offerings as well. Free PDF 101 if you like, for those that like to read. Again, it gives you an offering on how to explore astrology, to apply it to your own life, and to get just a better handle on the energy and how to navigate these currents that are might be very new to some of us, right? As we're starting to get more embodied with our energy and to feel it and allow ourselves to feel it. It's like, okay, I've got this feeling activated. Now, how do I move through it? What do I do with it? So to me, astrology has been such a pivotal tool and a way to express the energy in a very neutral way. So, and of course I do chart sessions as well. So again, if you like the channel, please support me, please support this channel. That's how we grow. That's how we expand, right? Your energy, your current is the most valuable resource. So for those that have spent time and energy with me today, I really thank you because again, you're sharing your most valuable current, which is your time. So thank you for taking the time to be here and to do the inner work, even if it's uncomfortable, and to release those maybe toxic or just those relationships that are no longer a match to you. And that's the challenging thing too, because we can get entangled. And I might do another video on maybe a release ceremony on how to, they call it cord cutting. I think that's very violent. I'm just Aries, right? Why do we get to cut shit? It's very much Aries. To me, it's like unplugging. I'm just going to unplug, from this particular outlet of what I was plugged into, not give it any energy. So who and what are you ready to unplug? Maybe you want to do, again, ceremony or ritual to maybe imagine that, just unplugging from a certain outlet that you had, and that outlet was a relationship, it was a job, it was a career, maybe family dynamics. You're just really ready to release. It's very hard and challenging because we're so entangled, right? Think of like a root system. It's been entangled, but some of those roots have been corroded and rotted, and so they have to be, I would say, burned out. If you want to cut, you can, but I'm not a cutter, so. Whatever in your imagination that will get you to that space of release, I would invite you to do that.